Patty taught me that babies came out of the vulva and not the butthole. Thank you for that.
I'm so excited for this to be talked about. Welcome to another conversation with the Apostate Sisters. I'm Patti, and I'm here with my sister Nancy. We grew up in a doomsday cult called the Worldwide Church of God. We are also nerdy about history and culture, but critical of religion. So get ready to get mad or to nod your head in agreement as we talk about today's topic. Today, we're talking about another method of control: the words that came out of our mouth and the ones that weren't allowed to. We would invite you to like, comment, and subscribe here on YouTube and also on Instagram.
All right. I'm excited for today's topic, Patty. Shit we couldn't say as kids.
Yeah.
Ah!
Hey, Nancy, shit we couldn't say. What was the big one for you, do you think?
I love saying the word fuck. Let me just throw that out there.
Should we just talk about so I mean, this idea of what the words we say are seems like
Hmm.
a really common place for churches, cults, etc., to impose control.
Right.
Right.
I know it's not just within religious organizations. I mean, a lot of people today say there's quote unquote bad words, things that you're not supposed to say. But my question is why? Maybe we can dissect that today.
Yeah, it's a good
Like,
point because I homeschooled my kids for a
mhm.
lot of years. And in my head, I was thinking, yeah, the public school is probably progressing like I am to where that's just not a big deal. Oh no, swearing and like flipping the bird is such a huge deal in school still.
Yes.
In fact, last year I was out at the playground after school with my kids, and there was school kids there, and there was like a whole kids being little shits to each other kind of conversation. And this little boy comes up to me and he's like, "Oh, your kid flipped the middle finger at me." And I was like, "Oh, did it hurt?" Aren't I a terrible parent? But really, like,
But
why?
you're taught
You're
that you're a
right. It's
terrible parent because your kids aren't supposed to say that, right? According
well,
to
so it brings it
society.
back to your question of why. Like, I've always said
Why?
this too. Those four little letters together is like somehow damning compared to any other combination of four letters. Really?
So my philosophy, Pads, is I don't have kids, so I don't even know what you deal with. I know you let them pretty much say whatever they want to, and I'll touch on that a little bit because it's hilarious to listen to them being so free. I don't like censorship either. I don't like someone telling me I can't say something because again, goes back to that like age-old philosophy. Like if someone tells me not to do something, I'm gonna want to do it all the more. And I think as a kid, I used to say shit and fuck behind closed doors because I was like, hee hee, I'm doing something I'm not supposed to. I'm saying something bad.
Okay, so I want to
But
question though that drive to like do the thing you're not supposed to do.
yeah.
I'm wondering, I've been wondering this for myself. Now, is that a normal, like standard human condition, or is that oppositional defiance disorder?
Maybe both.
Ooh. And
Maybe both.
ODD is something that is known to stem from traumas, abuse.
Can you talk a little bit more about ODD? I know we talked about me possibly having it.
Well, I don't know. I to be fair, I don't know a ton about ODD, but it's
Mhm.
oppositional defiant disorder. So it's like a overwhelming drive to do exactly what you're saying. Like, oh, you're telling me to do that? Well, fuck you very much. That's the thing I'm not going to do then, right? Eek. Um,
But why is defiance so cool? Like, why is it the fact that we have so many people telling us what to do, whether it's our school, our parents, our church, just society in general, the government, everyone telling us how we're supposed to be. And I think by nature, we're free creatures. We love freedom. We love being able to do what we want to do. And be trusted to make the right choices in life without having someone to tell us this is the right way to do it. Yeah.
I tend to think you and I will be shocked at how many times we come back to the golden rule
Yeah.
and just think, well, isn't that everything then?
Do unto others as you would have done to you. And sorry, I
Exactly.
have to clarify just because I know some people out there don't know what that means. Like, yeah, the golden rule.
Yeah. Do unto
Mhm.
others as you would have them do unto you.
Right.
To me, that's the whole ball game.
It's not complicated.
And all of the conditioning, like you're mentioning, that we get from church, school, government, everywhere. I mean, to some extent, that has to exist because those entities are trying to make a society function and not fall apart.
Right.
But I tend to think, why are we giving kids rules that they don't necessarily understand why they're following them? Because I think we don't give kids enough credit. I think if kids
Right.
have it explained to them, hey, this is how this is generally done. Here's why. I think most of the time kids will be like, well, all right, they're new
Mhm.
here. They're like little aliens that have arrived, and we're trying to show them this world. But too often it gets gross where it's like, okay, kid, now that you're here, I have this little box that I'm going to shove you in, and you've got to fit inside, okay?
Yeah.
And that's the part that I'm like, absolutely not. And it starts with your language.
Just give
All the other
context.
things we've talked about, our food, our behaviors, but our
Yes.
language is fucking huge.
Yeah, it is. I know. I
Yeah,
know.
words for the sake of avoiding words is like, what in the actual hell are we doing here?
So typical swear words. So I think as a kid, I learned what swear words are. I had some friend tell me, okay, so it's what? Fuck, it's shit, it's damn, it's hell. And again, George Carlin is going in the back of my mind here.
Bitch.
Things you couldn't say on
Don't
TV.
forget bitch.
Bitch was one of them. And it could extend out to things like I don't know, cunt and oh, did I say ass? Ass is supposed to be a swear word
Oh
too. So
yeah. Hmm.
I don't know who came up with the rules of what words are considered swear words, but
Well, and cunt, that's a funny one because we're super offended by it here
in
in
the
the
US,
United States. But in Britain, they're just like, you jerk, you cunt.
yeah, cunt.
Okay. But okay, so
Australia
can I
too.
just have a minute though? Can I just have a minute? Like, why are our insults about genitals, about weapons and violence? What? Like, I've tried to think of insults that aren't those things and I fail miserably.
That's a very good point, actually. I didn't even realize that. I'm like, you call someone a dick, it's like, well, what's wrong with a
Well,
dick?
and a jerk. I'm
A
sorry, but
jerk,
that's what that
jerking
is.
it, yeah. Or wanker. Wanker is what
Wanker,
you're
same thing.
jerking it in England, right? Okay.
See, goes with bodily autonomy. You just can't put these things in subjects. This is what I'm saying.
Right. No, that's absolutely right. We just had our episode about bodily autonomy, and here it is like these quote unquote bad words are parts of our bodies, which we are supposed to feel shame and guilt about. That's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, and the word
Disgusting.
fuck, I mean, we use it for everything and under the sun, every part of
Right.
speech we can. But I mean, it's a
Right.
sexual genitalia involved thing also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. We're weird. God, humans are
We
so
are weird. But you notice that in our household, okay, so it was obvious that we couldn't use swear words like what we just talked about, but we couldn't even use cleaner versions of it. You know, those washed out versions of like, say, instead of saying fuck, you say frickin' or flippin',
Oh.
or you say, oh shoot, or oh darn instead of oh damn.
Yeah,
But for
euphemisms just never quite have the
no,
oomph you're looking for, right?
they don't. If you're going down the highway at 120 miles an hour and there's a deer right in front of you, you're not going to say, oh, darn, or oh, shoot. You're going to say, oh, shit. Okay. I'm sorry. You are. And I feel like swear words are for emphasis to
Yeah.
accentuate a point.
Yeah, to be
And I don't,
honest, that's the one thing I really say to my kids is I'm like,
yeah,
I really don't care, but don't use it to hurt people and
yes,
don't use it gratuitously. Like those words, even though there's nothing wrong with them, they do hold power in our society. And so I think that is something that
I
should
do.
be used judiciously,
Yeah.
you know?
I asked my husband a lot, I was like, okay, so what was it like for you as a kid? If you said something like a bad word, what would happen? So his examples were uh words like, well, I couldn't say, I'm not gonna imitate his accent here. Pubes, cunt, asshole. He's like, if I was caught using that, the belt would have broken in half.
Really?
Is that horrific? Yeah. Okay, but then I also got an insight into, the kiddos in India. I've been there 3 times and I had introductions to like primary schools and such.
Mhm.
And I remember this one mother who told her girl, you don't use language like that because only bad girls say stuff like that. So there's this sort of separation of people that are a higher caste, which my husband is from. I'm sorry, any Indian that's in the US is usually from a higher caste,
Yep.
and the people of the quote unquote slum. Apparently, those are the people who do things like drink, they use bad words, and any girl, especially who uses words like that, is considered to be a bad girl. And that broke my heart because your girls were there in India and they were saying all kinds of fucking words, saying whatever they want. I can only imagine what his family thought. But at the same time, I'm like, why not?
Yeah, but also I think there is potentially some like sensibility in India around how Americans behave anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
So
true.
whether they think that means they're inherently bad or like all Americans or they're just kind of like, oh, well, that's just how Americans are. I don't know.
I mean, if they're looking at people like, the Kardashians on the television, of course, that's what they're going to get in their minds, thinking all people are like that.
Hmm.
You know, it is what it is. People have their stereotypes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's why I support international travel so much is that we got to get out there and see how other people live. So there is an entire world outside of the US.
What?
There is the big one. And everyone thinks differently. And I just, yeah, I like
Yeah,
exploring it. I'm a little bit addicted to travel. Yeah.
nice. Good.
So, but
Keep
yeah,
bringing back
getting
your
back to
learning.
shit, huh?
You can keep bringing back your learnings.
I try. But getting back to what our parents taught us we couldn't say, I almost feel like swearing was nothing compared to doing things like using God's name in vain, right?
True.
All right, so I remember this time when you and our brother were arguing about something, and you got all sassy like you normally do, and you used the word crap. And you were like, yeah, I said crap. And our brother was like, I'm gonna tell mom because that's how we were taught as kids, like
Hmm.
to tell on each other. And that's what we did so that we wouldn't get in trouble and we wouldn't get abused. Um, it was survival, but for you, you did make it funny. You're like, Johnny, I said crap. CRAP crap. Okay.
I
I
was
think
done giving fucks at that point, it seems.
I think even the word crap was not okay in our parents'
Oh,
vocabulary.
no, definitely not.
Yeah. But that was a funny moment. That was really good.
Kind of proud if you still remember that now.
Isn't it funny how certain things stick out when we're kids? Just little things. I like those little nuggets.
Even if they're kind of weird, bad memories, they're still good memories. Hmm.
We can take the good parts of it.
Yeah. And here's what I keep coming back to. I like me right now.
Yeah.
I like me. I like who I turned out to be. I'm, I have a nice life. It's not fancy. It's not big, but I like it. And I like me and I like my family. And so like, how can I be upset that much at the rest of what happened? You know,
Mm,
I will, this is gonna come out more in the future, but I tend to think that Herbert W. Armstrong made me an activist
yeah.
because he made me believe in a better world.
Yeah.
And so when I grew up and realized, hey, a better world doesn't really involve policing language, well, okay, here we go. Let's talk about it.
Your better world didn't involve you dying and going somewhere. You thought, how about we fix the world we're in right now?
Let's work on it.
Yeah. Yeah. At
Yep.
least we can admit we want to make it better. Yes. It's
Yeah,
the only life we know we have. So,
it's the only life we know we have. And if I
yeah.
can enjoy what I'm doing and make the path less complicated and harmful to someone else, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah. It was like when we decided to do this podcast, this YouTube. We were like, well, why are we going to waste our time? We don't believe in this shit and we want to do our own things in life. But how many people are out there still struggling that need to maybe hear other people's stories? And I think some of the most incredible moments for me are the comments that we receive from people saying they can relate and how much they have repressed about things. And so
yep.
I know this is just a simple, fun topic, shit we couldn't say as kids, but how many people can actually relate to it? It's just another form of control.
Yes, right. I think
Yes.
that makes
If
it
you can
valuable.
control someone's voice, telling them what they can and can't say, how are those people going to rise against them when they have all the power and all of a sudden the people say, well, we don't want you to have power anymore
We
because
don't want
we
you to
have
have a
power.
voice, is literally what they're saying. That is such a powerful point you're
Yes.
making.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, too damn bad. I have a voice and I'm going to use it.
Yeah. But yeah, getting back to the Lord's name in vain, I think that was a big thing growing up in the Worldwide Church of God, right? Not only that, but a lot of other churches, I think even evangelical churches would frown upon us saying things like, let's see, like, oh, Jesus Christ, or oh my God, or even something like, thank God. That
Yeah.
was completely against the rules, right?
Yes. I remember when we were doing the like basketball cheerleading thing
Yeah.
in around San Jose area.
Blech. Yep.
I
Sorry.
remember there was a girl on the cheerleading squad with me,
Mm-hmm.
and her family was a little bit scandalous anyway because her dad didn't attend, right? So like, yeah.
Ooh.
And so we always assumed that they were a little more bad than us then. It's so terrible.
You have to elevate
And
yourself. Yeah.
and I remember at you know, a whatever tournament day, right? The basketball
Yeah,
tournament day.
sure.
I remember her saying something like, "Oh my God, girly." And I just remember being like, it's true. She's so bad. And her mom was like pissed because she exposed that her daughter's not being good. I mean, it was like a whole thing to my,
Like
9-year-old brain, 10-year-old brain.
that's completely saturated in our culture, though. We say things like, oh my God, for
Right,
emphasis.
right.
And it was so frowned upon. Not frowned upon. It was like Lake of Fire shit.
Well, but that's how much we had to believe that we were different. And that stopped us from feeling connected to our fucking fellow humans in the areas that we lived and the schools we went to.
Right.
Because those natural phrases that are just a part of our culture, we
Hmm.
had to silence ourselves
Yeah.
and couldn't participate in the vernacular of our community. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I think
little,
that's
but
why we're
it's
so
little, but it's not.
right. I think that's why we're so uncensored now. We really don't want to
Probably
be hushed up. Yeah.
making up for lost time, baby.
I
Bitches.
know.
Making up for lost time, bitches.
You know what other word I remember we couldn't say was fart. Okay, do you
Oh,
remember what Dad said we had to say instead?
yes. Do you
Toot.
want toot?
The word toot. Who the fuck uses the word toot? I my husband didn't even know what it meant. Like maybe 5-year-olds say toot, yeah, toot toot for a train, but is the word fart really bad? I don't know. It's ridiculous. Well, how about we talk about some of the punishments we got for using words like this?
Do you remember what some of the things we got, actually punished for? Like what that was like?
Yes. Do you remember the soap in the mouth?
I never got the soap in the mouth.
What? I feel like I got it
No.
all
Oh,
the
I was
time.
so good at controlling my own language around them. Oh, I got away with it all.
I feel like I got soap in the mouth all the time.
Yeah, you probably
But
did.
Patty, who the fuck does that? To literally be a parent and your child is here. Okay, so they said something you didn't like. Instead of explaining why they shouldn't have said that, you take a bar of soap and you rub it all over their tongue, which who knows the gross things on that. And
Is that how they
yeah,
did it to you?
yeah, what is going on in their minds? They're rubbing soap on their tongues.
This is culturally a thing. I mean, do you remember the movie A Christmas Story? Ralphie, after
Oh,
he like
yeah.
beat
Uh-huh.
the shit out of a neighbor kid and was swearing up a storm. That's what his mom did. I think that's right. Oh, wait, no. Oh, it was like when there was something in the movie where something bad happened and he goes, "Oh, fudge. Only
Yeah,
I
I remember
didn't say
that.
fudge." But for that one, even in the movie, he got soap in his mouth. So it's not like some particular abusive tactic that our parents thought of or the church thought of. It's
Right.
it's out there. I mean, and that's the thing. Like the stuff that we experienced was probably more pointed and more, I don't know, more intense because it
Yeah.
had like eternity attached to it. But really, the things that they promoted and said, for the most part, like swear words, it was cultural, not just the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we acknowledge that. Yeah. It
Yeah.
wasn't just the church. Yes. I don't know
Well,
anything where we got a lid put on us for language that actually had to deal with just the church. Do you? Maybe it was just all cultural
I think the Lord's name in vain thing was more church.
because that was one of the Ten Commandments, right? Don't take the
Oh,
Lord's name in vain.
yeah.
I believe
Yeah,
it
you're right.
is. Yep.
Yep. That explains that for sure.
But isn't that kind of open-ended what that means?
My guess is there are entire dissertations about what that means
All right.
because it's really worth spending your time on, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I love to do
When
that
we
in my
have
spare
real
time,
things we could be solving, for fuck's sake.
for fuck's sake.
For
Yes.
fuck's sake. FFS.
Worried about our wordings. I mean, what else for punishments though? I remember getting spanked, I think, for things I said. I couldn't tell you what I said, but
Oh,
I
spankings.
spankings, yeah. That's a
I
whole nother
probably
episode.
got spankings for talking back. That was my most common. Not for swear words, but for talking back, because that I couldn't hold myself back from.
But talking back is just using logic in a sassy way, isn't
Yes.
it?
The problem with that notion is using logic.
Correct. Using logic, yes. So our parents, if they got frustrated with something, they would have like these watered down versions of saying things like, I remember dad always saying, like, would you pipe down or hush up? I remember him saying that. Like he would never go there and use bad words. But if he knew how freeing it was to be able to say whatever you want to fucking say.
The thing is, the thing is, I don't think the energy was different, right? Like it was good in a sense that he didn't tell us kids just shut up because culturally we would have taken that as being not respecting of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so by using those other words, it like gave the appearance of not being that dad that yells shut up at his kids, but at the same
Yeah.
time it literally was the same thing.
Yeah. I never liked the watered down version of it. I
You
just
just want to be told to shut up.
maybe if I'm being bratty, but just play it straight with me. Why all this beating around the bush and like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. But yet the preacher from the pulpit would be saying hell all damn Sunday.
there you go.
Mm-hmm. It's the context. I know.
I know. Well, okay, so why don't we talk about like what it's like? I don't have kids, you do. I feel like there like is there a limit to what you allow your girls to say? I think in the home you allow them to say whatever they want, right? Because they're expressing themselves. But do you tell them like, hey, when you're in school or in public places, maybe you don't say certain words? I mean, how does that work and where's the limit and why?
That's a good point. Okay, so I did address it a little bit in the sense that they know those words are just words, but I do admonish them about the idea that, we don't want to use any words to hurt other people,
Okay.
to fling those words at anyone or to make them feel bad about themselves or anything like that. The other thing is that to use it not gratuitously, right? To understand that those words have power in our culture and to wield it appropriately, which
Right.
is vague also, I realized. But yeah, at home, other than those things, I tend to not gatekeep that.
Mhm.
When it comes to school, because one of my kids did decide to go to school, she discovered she discovered that those are not okay to say and that it stops no one from saying it. So basically that's where that stands.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So she does moderate herself at school because she understands that's what they expect there. And she chose to go to school of her own accord. So she's like, well, okay, I picked it, so I'll do what they say.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's like the most I can hope for as her parent, you know.
I think they're doing great. Yes.
Huh,
And they can express themselves freely at home. But yeah, it is strange. It's like you can't fully be yourself out in the world necessarily all the time, even when you have a
no,
job. I
of
mean, you
course.
have to abide by certain rules. You know,
Yeah.
that's their company that you're working for. You have to dress a certain way, you have to act a certain way. And I get that. Um,
It's
but
funny how much though that starts to sound like code switching. Do you know this concept? For
mhm.
people of color to need to potentially act differently, use different words, not use an accent that might be standard in their home, all because they're trying to make sure that they're acceptable in white spaces. And that fucking sucks.
Oh, you bring up a
It
good point.
I'm trying to learn about it and understand it and like one asking myself like, what can I do here
Yeah.
to make safer spaces for people of color, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah. Of all cultures too.
of
Yeah.
all cultures. Yeah, absolutely.
I remember a friend of mine, she's got like Indian ancestry, but she was born and raised in Guyana. There's a lot of them out there. And she seemed so surprised that I wanted to be friends with her. She's like, not a lot of white women in the US like want to talk to me. I was like, I'm sorry for that. You know, and I'm fascinated by what you have to say. And she had explained that little things here and there stood out. One time she told me that she had gotten something wrong on a test because she had spelled something the British in the British way of spelling
Hmm.
English instead of American English, which there are differences. Like the word traveler has two L's and little things like that. But again, the teacher would not bend on it. She was just hell bent on giving her the wrong, like a mark saying, this is wrong, but she explained to the teacher, look, I'm used to, British English here. So like, why wouldn't the teacher stop being a fucking cunt and just give her the point and be like, okay, that makes sense. You've learned now, and now you're gonna switch the way you say. Isn't that interesting that you can be right in different places of the world
I
and
was gonna
wrong in
say it's not like
another?
she was even wrong. She wasn't
Right. She wasn't
wrong.
wrong. She had the answer correct. It's just that she spelled something in British English instead of American English because that's what she's used to. I'm like, talk about fucking, what's the word I'm looking for? Like,
American exceptionalism.
yeah, maybe that's the
I
word.
mean, it's a little bit that. It's right,
Right.
like, oh, my way of doing English is the way.
There's even my friend from Fiji who goes to school here locally in central Illinois. Her daughter doesn't know anything about the Bible. She's never read it. Why the fuck would she? She was actually raised Muslim. She knew a little bit about Hinduism. She has an Indian background. And the teacher was so annoyed and angry with her because she didn't know simple answers to questions. I'm like, teachers should not be teaching things about the Bible, but yet the teacher was completely biased against her. Just like, oh, yeah,
Ooh,
you're
that's
confused.
shit we
You know
gotta start
nothing
calling
about the
out.
Bible. I'm like, this is criminal shit right here.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, she's one of the very few dark-skinned people in the school. It's very white here.
Okay, I'm just gonna be really out here about how strong my sense of justice is. Because if there's ever a time when I could say I see red, like it is in the face of injustice like that.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Nothing makes me more pissed off. Oh, that
Yeah.
was another thing we couldn't say. Pissed off.
Oh yeah, pissed off we couldn't say. Yeah. You're peeved off, you're ticked off.
Peeved. Peeved and ticked were okay, but
Peeved
not
and
pissed, because that's urine. Ugh.
I don't think peeved was okay. Our parents didn't like those watered down
Peeved?
version. Yes.
Oh, I thought that one was okay.
I don't
I
know.
remember
Maybe I
mom
remember
saying
it
her
differently.
big expletive was, "Oh, crumb."
What does mom just say what she's actually thinking? She wants to say, "Oh, fucking
Oh,
god damn it."
yeah, she's pretty buried in there. I hope
So
someday
buried.
the fire can be reignited.
Maybe, but we've never seen it, and that's heart-wrenching.
We just see the sadness leak out when it's too much to hold down.
Right, and that gets her to the point where she just can't hold it in anymore. I've seen her bawling before because it's overflowing so much she just can't handle it. It's like you can't even talk about what you're feeling with your family here,
And
what you're going through.
there is like the extended version of everything we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Is that to be true and honest and vulnerable with how you're doing, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, none of that is ever okay in Armstrongism type cults.
Vulnerability, no.
No, you can't admit that you're a fucking human
Yeah,
and have worries and fears or desires.
yeah. Emotions were
So,
not something we talked about growing up
no.
at
So, I
all.
mean, that's cultural too. I think that's, very 1950s Midwest behavior also.
Hmm.
Um, because it came from like German immigrants being farmers for generations in Wisconsin. But anyway, uh, all these things have reasons why they're there.
There's so much history to it. And I want to watch some of those documentaries out there that talk about like the history of words like fuck and all kinds of swear words. But sometimes I tell people like, okay, you tell me you don't like me saying the word fuck or shit. Like, okay, why? And they have no explanation. Like, it's a bad word. Why? Let me ask the question one more time. Can you fucking answer for me?
The
They don't
only
have an answer
answer,
because they don't know.
no, I really think, okay, here's my whole thing about words in
Okay.
general. I do not think that people use words generally for their definitions. I
Mm.
think people reach into
Definition.
words and connect with words based on the feelings that those words hold in their bodies, like physically in their body tissues, right?
Yes.
Because I feel like almost every word we have has like an automatic good, bad feeling, and
Yes.
every nuance between and outside of that.
Yeah.
And so I really think that's how people choose their words and respond to words. And so
I
this is
think you're
why
right.
when we're having really important discussions about spirituality and deconstructing and all of that, that we're taking the time to define things, right?
Mhm.
Spirit, soul, belief, faith, like you have to know where everyone's at with that word.
Yeah.
And even then, I think what you find is the words we use to define those words, we all have somewhat different associations with, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not a perfect system. Language is our best attempt at communicating something that is otherwise an internal experience.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very much a powerful tool for manipulating people,
Yes.
right? If you can tear people down with language, and that's
Hmm.
exactly what people like Herbert W. Armstrong used to do, and David C. Peck does exactly that, to emotionally tear down and manipulate the people who are already vulnerable enough to listen to him.
Yes.
And he convinces them what they already suspected, that they're evil and bad, when none of that is true. They are
Yeah,
not.
they're not.
They've been duped and taken advantage of,
Yes. Like our parents.
like our parents,
Yeah.
who have no joy.
Yeah.
It
No,
has
none.
been sucked
None.
out by these systems that control and manipulate them.
Yeah. Yeah. And for what? What do they gain out of it? They really need control that much to feel like they're special, important.
Maybe,
Like,
but it's
okay,
also avoiding the fear of the unknown, as I would
yeah.
contend,
Mm.
all of those belief systems are.
Yeah.
I mean, the freedom in realizing, oh, we're just this funny little organic species on a rock flying through space in a fairly, from our, as far as we can tell, insignificant corner of the galaxy and an insignificant
Right.
corner of the universe. Like, I'm here for that shit. Like, when I accept that, like, great, that's where I am. Now I can go from there. But
Yeah.
when I need to like keep connecting to think that I'm part of this, some other special thing, or all of this was made for me, like it derails all of my ability to really engage right here, right now, and
Mhm.
see things for what they are, even down to language.
And look at how many different languages have been around since, the beginning of time. So many different things that even my husband and I, being from two different continents, sometimes we struggle to communicate on something that it should be so simple, but yet when things mean different things in different parts of the world, oh my God, you can have a hell of a time because what might be a compliment in one country might be a complete insult in another.
Right. No kidding.
Right?
Yeah. I
There's
remember,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say in college, I had a friend named Jane, but her name was actually Jayun, and she was from Singapore.
Hmm.
And I was on hall staff with her, and I don't know, something silly had just happened among the hall staff people. And Jane goes, "Ha ha, my toes are laughing." And we were like, "What?" Your toes are laughing? And so she had directly translated an idiom into English, or maybe she even used it in English and it was just different because it was in Singapore. But it was like, yeah, 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 you're so funny, like whatever, get on with you. My toes are
Yeah.
laughing. I just thought it was so good.
That's
I
awesome.
love
I mean, you
that.
understood her, but it's just a different way of saying it.
Mm-hmm. I know, isn't that awesome?
That's awesome. And I didn't even know how many American idioms were out there until, like, when I was dating my husband, I got him this book from the library about American idioms. There were thousands in there. Like,
Yeah.
he had never heard the term break a leg before. He's like, what the fuck is that? Like,
He's
why would
like,
you
I
tell
break
someone
enough body
to
parts.
break their leg? I know. The curse of being married to a skydiver and snowboarder, surfer, one wheeler, all that. Yes, bound to happen. But
Yeah.
he had a broken leg when I first met him, so I think I was destined. Yeah.
At least you knew what you were getting
But
into.
anyway. But he does all that crazy shit because he didn't get the opportunity as a child. He may have been running around with elephants like little Mowgli from Jungle Book, but
This is
he
what I'm
didn't.
saying. I'm like, was running from elephants not enough for him?
But that's
Dude.
so boring in his culture. He wanted things like jumping out of airplanes, getting shot out of cannons. That's the cool stuff. While we're over here like, I want to see elephants in the wild. That would be amazing. Again, yeah, that's dependent on where you live, the continent.
Aw. I love embracing the vast diversity that is humanity.
I know. I know.
Humanity is one family. I will always believe that.
Yes, likewise. Likewise, yes.
Hmm.
Yep. I can't imagine being stuck in one corner of the world with one sort of ideology and just living that way your whole life. Like, I'm just so drawn to seeing what else is out there and different ways of thinking. It just,
Hmm.
it broadens the mind and expands your life in a way.
Yeah. And I'm a huge fan of the what ifs.
Right.
Like I don't ascribe to a belief system, but the idea of saying, well, what if we're what if we're like a really extensive TV show for aliens,
The
There's
Truman Show.
yeah, like
Or
the Truman Show-ish. I mean, I think those are just really fun thought experiments,
Mhm.
but I'm not gonna decide my do's and don'ts based on that idea.
Right. You're not going to control other people's lives because you think this is the one that's correct.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just stupid. That's another thing I couldn't say was stupid, right?
Stupid.
I've
Yeah.
had people tell me stupid.
Mm,
It's
as
a
a
weird one,
parent,
right?
I'm gonna maybe stand by that one a little bit. At least being used for people. I guess I'm not too offended by stupid as like that's a stupid concept or
Yes, because
whatever.
the word actually exists and it has to pertain to something, right? So that's what I bring up. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to call someone stupid, but even though sometimes I want to.
You're a good person, Nancy.
No, I'm not.
Okay,
According to
you're
the
not.
majority of the world, I'm not.
Hmm. Well,
Hmm.
according to me, you are. So,
Why, thank you. You're the only person whose opinion matters right
oh, hey, let's. Ooh, I could start a cult with that.
now. Tax-free donated tithe money. You could make some
Hmm.
bank, pets. Hmm?
I knew I was
Yeah.
studying Armstrong for a reason. Learn from the master of manipulation.
Yes, it was all about his wording too. I've been reading his autobiography right now, and it's really enlightening. I mean, he comes off as very charming. Is there a term for the way that he talks? He's sort of like Trump in a way. I know Trump is not an eloquent speaker by any means, but I mean, somehow he gets people to listen to him.
Don't you
There's
think
something
Armstrong, it
in
was like
there
a
that
radio voice, right? Like, just like,
initially,
because you're really into Seth Andrews because of his voice too.
oh my
Okay,
God,
not just because of his voice, sorry, Seth, but right, like that's an important factor, and so I do think there's a little bit of that radio voice that you
yeah,
use when you talk on a podcast,
people
which
can
I'm
be
doing a horrible
charming.
impression of right now, but
Yes. But I think it's the whole concept, like what we were talking about before in another episode, sounding like you know what the fuck you're talking about. People are they question themselves so much. And when they see someone else that sounds like they know what they're talking about, they'll listen to them because they don't trust their own selves. They've never been taught to trust their own minds. They've been taught to
that's
listen and obey.
oh my gosh, yeah,
I'm gonna brain fart. I said
Hannity,
fart. Huh? Huh?
Fart, fart.
Fart. Yes. I'm not gonna say toot because I'm a grown fucking woman. I'm not gonna say toot. No one should say toot. Flatulence. Sound all
There you go.
eloquent when we talk about farts. By the way, I just watched the Atheist Experience. Seth Andrews was on there. Anyway, yeah, they were talking about butthole holy water in the Catholic Church. Did you see that episode?
No,
Some
butthole.
guy called in. He's like, "You guys were talking about this, and it's really gross." I'm like, Seth Andrews just lost it. He's like, "We were talking about butthole, holy water." I'll have to watch what episode they're talking about. Anyway, I got off
Yeah,
topic
but
talking about farts.
you and your butthole holy water, my brain is like making so many pictures and none of them are good right now. Nope.
I
Nope.
mean, you never know. It's when you bring out the stress boob. Mm.
Boop, boop, boop.
Oh, why can't I get the actual nipple to do it? Meet,
Doesn't
meet,
look like the nipple is a material that'll
meet.
stretch the same.
Yeah, I guess not. Okay.
Just looks like a giant blister on the side of the nipple. That'll make sense for anyone listening to this in audio format.
Is it going to be audio format?
Nancy was just squeezing a fake boob. That's what was happening there.
Oh, okay. We have stress balls. Some of them actually are testicles, and I just feel like a boob looks nicer. I'm sorry. It's, you know,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
gonna agree with you on that.
Who doesn't love boobies? Oh, tit was another thing we couldn't say. Of course,
Tit,
titties,
titties. Yeah, I
titties,
suppose.
boobies. Yeah.
Well, okay, so this is what I'm gonna use to move us into what was said in our house
Oh,
because our father is a strange human in general.
we know that. Yeah.
And and he had his own words for things. Like our last name wasn't Johnson, but if it was, he called it that he would say things in Johnsonese. And
Mm-hmm.
so he had his whole language that he used, and he thought he was so fucking funny. And I mean, as a kid, I did think he was funny.
Initially,
But
until he used it 20, 30, 40 times.
well,
Yes.
okay, that's fair. But he talked about breast milk a lot because I was the oldest of four. So there was a lot of years of breastfeeding going on in the house when I was little. And and so he always called breast milk boob juice.
I don't remember that. Seriously?
No? I mean, he was a
Boob juice?
jokester. He was a jokester, right? Like I feel like in these episodes, it's important for us to say the good memories too, because
I know.
they're not shit humans. They're being abused
Yeah.
and
There.
they've been victimized by this whole thing that Herbert W. Armstrong started and the David C. Packs of the world are continuing and to
Yeah.
extract as much funds from vulnerable people as they can. Anyway, where was I going with that? I got a little upset.
You were talking about boob juice, but
Oh, boob juice. Yeah. I remember one time the jokester, our dad, mom was sitting on the floor cross-legged, nursing the baby, and dad's on hands and knees, and he crawls around, leans around the front of her, and is like, and talking about wanting some boob juice. Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so I started that story thinking it would be cute and funny, and then after I said it, I was like, oh, actually, that was kind of weird. But okay, but dad did say silly things like butter,
yeah.
he called butada. So he'd say,
Oh God, I remember that.
please, please pass the butada, por favor. So he'd throw in like random little bits of German, French, Spanish,
Italian.
Italian too.
Hmm.
Yeah, probably.
Grazie, grazie. You remember that?
Not really.
Okay. Yeah, he
I remember.
combined them all the time.
Yeah, yes, he combined them. He combined them. Um, oh yeah, because he would say danke, bitte. So uh
Dankeschön. Yep.
what is that? Thank you. No, that was German. So
Hmm.
thank you and you're welcome in German. Gracias, de nada. That's Spanish. I think that might be the only ones.
Yeah.
And then he liked to say numbers in both Spanish and German.
And was ist
I
los?
Was ist los?
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
even actually Spanish? Because I think he meant it to say, what is this? That's the thing. He would make his words sound like vaguely sort of Spanish-ish, but then it was
He would
not.
combine them, so we
It
sounded
was
like idiots
Johnsonese.
when we were Johnsonese, Christianese,
Hmm.
create our own language.
He definitely
Yeah.
had things he liked to say, and he said them repetitively. Like I remember before the fourth sibling came along, there was three of us,
Uh-huh.
and he would say, like he would tell people he loved saying this, eeny, meeny, miny, and no mo. Like no mo.
I I don't remember that at all.
Oh, he was so proud to have thought of this. And then our youngest sibling came along. So then he started saying how he used to say eeny, meeny, miny, and no mo, and then we got mo.
I would give anything to see what our parents were like without this religion because I think our dad really would have been a jokester. And I think our mom would have been an adventurous person traveling around the world
Oh,
and stuff. Maybe some episode we could talk about what maybe they would have been. But our dad is so nerdy and he uses humor as a way to cope with things. He lost
yeah.
his father when he was what, 16 and
Well, mom
I
lost her
think
father
he
at 9. I think they
true.
both were in a bit of a rough spot emotionally and making them more vulnerable to Armstrong because of
Correct.
those experiences.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think our dad took the humorous, right? Psychologically, I mean, psychology, how people deal with things to, handle the trauma of the past. especially
Yeah.
when you're not taught that it's okay to zero in on your emotions and try to figure out what's going on. It just wasn't a time for that.
Right.
So,
That really is quite a new development in what
mhm.
us humans know about and engage with. Yeah, we just
Yeah.
like weren't cognizant of the emotional stuff, at least in the US, for I'd say at least what the last couple hundred years. Well, probably all of US history.
Mm.
Don't think
Mhm.
like emotional intelligence has been part of our societal repertoire.
Oh,
I know, see, all my big words are
societal.
coming out this episode. I'm so
Yeah,
excited.
our big words. I love it. As you should. Titty. We can take
Shitballs.
smegma, blowjob,
Fuck ton. As
anal,
assholio.
bunghole, ass goblin, foreskin.
Fuck nut.
I like the word butthole. I don't know. It's a
Yeah,
funny
you
one.
like the word butthole.
Butthole.
Well, and
It's
you
funnier
say
than
it so
asshole.
well. It's how you wield the word that makes it
It
good.
is
Yeah.
butthole.
I mean,
Butthole. It's perfection.
for fuck's sake.
Mm-hmm. Jesus H fucking Christ.
Bitch. You know what? I try to say bitch to reclaim it because I feel like we should reclaim the word as like a good thing. And then I'm like, nope, still doesn't feel right.
All right. So thanks everyone for joining us for this episode of Shit We Couldn't Say as Kids. So let's all fuck off and have a great day, huh? Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Spotify and YouTube. We hope to see you there and join in the conversation. Bye.
Subscribe.